Hey everyone. Before we get started, the content creator Jessie recently came out with a video explaining her own situation with YouTube's communication. It had come out about a day after we recorded this episode, and I just wanted to point you guys to her video as it's relevant to the topic at hand. Please take the time to send her some love by clicking the link either on the screen or in the description. Thanks.
By saying that these things are nudity and sex and violate a community strike and not just an age gate, it is agreeing inherently with Matt Walsh. It is agreeing inherently with these creators who are saying that LGBTQ people are constituting rumors of that our bodies are inherently sexual for just existing. It is siding with those arguments, and I personally find that very offensive. I find it deeply, deeply offensive. Even more, what frustrates me.
Welcome to the Social Priority Podcast. I'm Starpanda, and today we talk about YouTube communication problem with my first returning guest, Vera Wild from Council of Geeks. How are you doing?
First?
Anything new?
Well, if 2020 could just stop happening, I feel like I'm in part 3 of the 2020 trilogy. I'm ready for it to end. We don't need to reboot this thing. This has not actually been a great day. I have directly in front, well, I have the microphone directly in front of me, but other than that, I have warmed up cider with probably more honey bourbon than I should have put in it, but that's how I'm doing. How are you?
It's that kind of night, huh? Yeah, I'm doing all right. Just tired of working, probably like everyone else.
That too, and I'm self-employed, so I've got no excuse, and I'm still.
So, since I've already interviewed you, I guess we'll pretty much go right into the topic. I did see that you had put out a video on basically TikTok versus YouTube and how they are basically competing against each other in this like shorter kind of video space.
Which is not going to go well for YouTube because this is what almost always happens when somebody basically tries to mimic the leader in an area and like, oh, well, we'll just do what they do. Yeah, but no one's going to come to you for that because they already use the other platform. Like, the only way that it works out. So, like, here I'm talking about the YouTube Shorts format, which I do use, but is just worse TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like, the only way it ever works out when you basically just copy the more popular version is if you also somehow improve it. Or if you can buy them out and shut them down. And YouTube has done neither. So it just has the shorts format, which is continuing to push right now, and I'll keep using it as long as I get decent views off it, but it's not good. Like, in addition to that video I did on TikTok versus YouTube, which was more about the general experience as a creator, I did a dedicated video on YouTube Shorts about a month or two ago explaining why they're garbage.
Yeah, actually, I heard recently on that note that I think it was from like a Philip DeFranco news reel or something like that, where TikTok is trying to compete with Amazon. Don't know how that's gonna go, but like they're gonna start like delivering to people, like letting people use it as a marketplace, so that's gonna be interesting.
Well, that's gonna go really badly because unless they've got something going that I just am not aware of. To my understanding of TikTok, the only way they could get to do that is if they basically up the brand integration to the point that when there is a branded TikTok, you could click on that and order the product through the app. But that's going to require a ton of individually negotiated contracts.
Oh, yeah.
With all these brands. Now, if this works, later on, TikTok can just say, these are the rules, and everybody follows them. But to get brands on board, they're going to have to negotiate that crap out almost piecemeal. And I would be shocked if that works.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting time in the next few years, honestly. All these giants like competing with each other, trying to swallow up the entire market. So, but yeah, so on the note of YouTube, I guess starting with the history of YouTube's communication and creators, I know it was never really been good. It was never particularly good communication from YouTube.
I mean, the short version is YouTube does not communicate preemptively ever.
Mm-hmm.
They never, ever give their creators a heads up before they do something. They either do it and just tell us this is what it is now, or shockingly often they do it and don't tell us, and we all have to try collectively. The YouTube creator community has to figure out what the hell just happened. That's like what happened with the adpocalypse, I think 2018, 2019, where like everybody's revenue dropped by like 30 to 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody knew why, because YouTube didn't say that they were completely recalibrating their compensation plan. They just did it. So YouTube has never been good about it. There's one tiny thing, there's one tiny bone that I will throw to this Google subsidiary. And that is that when it comes to how the algorithm works, there is actually a very practical reason why they are not upfront about A, the exact nature of how it works, and B, when and how they change it when they do. And that is that if creators knew exactly how the algorithm worked, they could game the system. That's part of why they have to update the algorithm every 6 months to 2 years or so, because just by throwing whatever's out the wall and seeing what sticks, people eventually figure out how to game the system. That's how we got stuff like 3 or 4 years ago, where there was just that flood of absolutely bizarre, seemed to be procedurally generated kids cartoons with like pregnant Elsa and Spider-Man at the grocery store kind of thing.
Yeah, those creepy videos that were supposed to look like they were for kids, but like it just caught people's eye, and yeah.
Well, I mean, it didn't even catch people's eye. The reason it was succeeded is because it got on the kids' side of the platform, and when a iPad or a Kindle or whatever is just handed to a 2-year-old, they're incredibly passive viewers, and autoplay just fed into these things because the people creating them had figured out how to game the algorithm. And the only reason they didn't do that sooner was because YouTube doesn't announce to us how they've changed the algorithm.
Right.
And it's to avoid stuff like that. Because the instant we know how it works, a crap ton of bad actors are going to do the worst possible thing with it. So I will give them some leeway, excuse me, on not communicating algorithm changes to us, because there is a very good reason to not do that. However, their lack of communication on basically every policy change they ever do, either not telling us at all or only telling us after they do it and never giving us a heads up. Yeah, that's kind of always been the case.
Yeah. I have followed basically, like, I guess through all the YouTubers that I follow, all these changes that they make, and like basically looking to MatPat to like explain it to them, because like it takes like certain people to actually like figure it out, instead of YouTube actually telling us like what is going on. It's kind of ridiculous the way they do things. Like, you're absolutely right that they don't like preemptively tell people anything at all. I don't know what the solution would be, except to just do it.
I
So,
mean, unfortunately, the solution doesn't exist because the real solution would be a competing platform that isn't failing.
mhm.
Because the reason YouTube gets away with it is because where the heck else are we going to go? The closest thing to competing platforms are TikTok and Twitch, but those are only better than YouTube for very specific things. Twitch better for streaming, TikTok better for short format. But, for anything where it's a longer format thing, especially video essayists, which are a pretty big part of the YouTube economy at this point, whether they be the anti-woke rage merchants or whether they be 5-hour long dissections of Doctor Who, whatever, YouTube is still the best place for that. And anywhere else you go, you're going to take a massive hit to your viewership because it is effectively, as far as long format presentation video, user created video goes, YouTube is effectively a monopoly. It's not technically one because there's technically a couple other sites still out there like Vimeo and Dailymotion, but like, come on.
They're not serious competitors, yeah.
No. So part of why YouTube doesn't talk to us is because they don't have to. Where the hell else are we gonna go?
Yeah. Do you have any specific experiences with their communication or I guess lack thereof?
So most of the times I've had anything approaching communication with YouTube has had to do with either copyrights or advertising restrictions on videos. Those are two slightly different things, and for people who don't know, I'll explain. Copyright issues, copyright claims you've probably already heard about when somebody tries to claim your video for a snippet of music, a little bit of video, whatever. And if you try and do anything that uses other people's stuff as reference, because that's what you're commenting on and critiquing, it can be a big pain in the butt. That has gotten much better, but not due to YouTube. It's gotten better because most copyright holders have finally caught on to the fact that people talking about their products is free publicity and not piracy. So, I was shocked to realize, I think last year that even Paramount, because Paramount used to be so bad about this. I got a video copyright claim by them because I used a still image. No video, no audio clip from a movie, just a still image, and they copyright claimed it. That's how bad Paramount used to be. I've learned since they have completely stopped that. You can do chunks of video from Paramount-owned products, and they won't claim it unless the thing's too long. General rule of thumb is if you keep it under 10 seconds, you're probably fine. So at this point, the stuff that a big part of what was really bad about the copyright claim system was partially YouTube, but it was also largely because the copyright holders just were idiots. Like in the early days when I was first starting to try and integrate video clips into things, both Warner Brothers and Disney, they seem to understand that like me talking about your thing and putting a clip for reference does not eat into your audience, and it's a form of free publicity. But Sony was bad, Fox was bad, Paramount was the worst. But they all seem to have finally realized that they gain nothing by stopping people from being able to talk about their product.
Mm-hmm.
So that's gotten better. The stuff that is completely on YouTube and is 100% on them is the issues I've had at various points with having videos marked as not advertiser friendly, which generally means that I am discussing some kind of topic that they're saying, well, we don't feel most advertisers would want their ads put on this. Now, it doesn't mean that it's completely demonetized. It just means it gets run with very limited ads. And the worst that went was I had a stretch, was probably 2017, 2018. I had a stretch of time for about 6 months where every single video I uploaded to both Council of Geeks and the Vera Wild channel was immediately and automatically flagged as being not advertiser friendly. And they never got back to me to explain why this kept happening. I have my suspicions as to why it happened, but I can't prove this.
Was that around the time that they were like randomly flagging LGBT stuff?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
But here's the thing, and that was during that period. So I figured that's what was happening to the Vera Wild channel. But like I said, they were flagging me on both. And at that point, I wasn't out on the Council of Geeks channel.
Mhm.
There was no queer content on that channel. So I figure either they like logged my IP address and just were categorizing anything from that IP address as, oh, well, this is a person that sometimes does queer things, limit their monetization, or I got picked up by face recognition. I could easily believe either one. Because at that point in time, I think I had just gotten one of the phones that like unlocks with face recognition. And I did test because again, at this point, like I just present as me, but back then, since I wasn't out, like looking femme and me day to day was quite different. Like I would put on a wig and all this makeup and all this stuff, but like facial recognition would still recognize me either way. So I could easily believe it was either one. And the only reason that got sorted is I'm assuming as an automatic thing, because I disputed every single one of those limitations on the ads. Disputed every one, and I won 99.999% of the time. They restored full ads.
Mm-hmm.
And I think eventually that happened so often that they just took me off whatever list was auto-flagging me. Because every time I dispute it, that actually costs them time and money, because when they review a dispute, that means that because the initial flagging is often done by bots. The reviews from disputes and a review request, those have to be looked at by a human being who you are paying an hourly wage. Probably not a good one, but that's a whole other conversation. And so as a result of that, I have no doubt I was eating up their time by not only disputing, but winning these things all the damn time. So that probably got me taken off whatever the hell was getting the bots to get me all the time. That having been said, things that limit your own monetization, because it does still happen. I had, I think it's actually a video I did. I was talking about Lily Cade and the BBC article from last year. And they flagged that as not advertiser friendly. And I disputed it, and they upheld it, basically because I quoted what this woman said. And somehow that meant I was advertiser unfriendly. Great. But the thing is, at this point, and this didn't always used to be the case, at this point, when you have a copyright dispute, if someone tries to claim your copyright, what used to happen years ago, and this was a problem, and YouTube did fix this. What used to happen is when somebody copyright claimed your video, they automatically started getting the revenue from it. And whatever, even if you disputed that and got it back, you still lost that revenue, and they got to keep whatever they had during that time, during that period. Eventually, they did fix that. So now if somebody copyright claims your video and you dispute that, any like ads are left in place, and any ad revenue goes basically into an escrow fund that gets sent to whoever wins the dispute. But by comparison, when stuff gets marked as not advertiser friendly, for however long it's marked as not advertiser friendly, it is running with limited to no ads. Revenue flatly isn't being generated. So it's not a matter of, oh, well, we'll set the revenue aside. The ads aren't running in the first place. So even if I dispute that and win, however long it was flagged as not advertiser friendly, which can be up to a month after I ask for a review, I am earning little to no money off that.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of became a little bit of a tangent, but it sort of exemplifies the only way that you get even the vaguest hint of communication from YouTube is by basically pushing back when their automatic stuff does its nonsense. And even then, you'll know that a human being looked at it, but you will probably never speak to that person.
So that is very similar to a lot of the things I've been hearing lately. Specifically, like, I guess nowadays it's more age restrictions, and stuff like that with people's channels. There's this guy recently who he goes by Corey Kenshin on YouTube, and he recently had a video age restricted. And he went to YouTube to complain about it, and apparently they upheld it the first time, but then he talked to like a person who literally he can, I guess, talk to, like a YouTube representative that he has, and basically talked about how the people around like his I guess size, like Markiplier and Jacksepticeye and some of these slightly smaller YouTubers didn't have the same restriction on literally the same content. So like he wound up being able to get it unrestricted. So there's this question of why was his restricted in the first place then? You know, and
so I can get conspiratorial if you want me to.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
You can do that.
Okay, well, so I'll start with the fact, and then I'll get a little bit speculative. So it is a fact at this point that discovery and growth on YouTube has gotten worse in the last few years, and that is by design. Because, 5-6 years ago, I'm not going to say it was the easiest thing to break into, but it was a lot easier for someone with a new channel and some talent to catch some traction. It is really, unless you are coming in basically already producing content at a quality as if you were already a 1 million subscriber channel, unless you already come in doing stuff that good, the odds of you even getting to 1,000 subscribers where you'll get to monetize anything for pennies is very slim. And that's by design because, 6 years ago and plus, YouTube was basically trying to be more or less an even playing field. I mean, it never was truly, but certainly more than it was now, in the interest of basically figuring out who are the stars of this platform. We want to give people the opportunity to get big so that we know who our superstars are. The thing is, though, the reason that they have restricted discovery and retooled the algorithm so that it very, very, very strongly favors channels with 1 million subscribers and up is because they now have their superstars. They don't need to make new ones. They've already got them. And from a business perspective, you start cannibalizing audiences if you just create a bunch of competitors for the same eyes. But if you just make your superstars bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, that is potentially more lucrative. And everything about how the algorithm has worked for newcomers and smaller channels indicates that that is what has happened, that they have choked off growth potential for smaller creators in favor of pushing the big ones harder. That's where they want people to go. They want people to be watching Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, people with a, even Phil DeFranco, these people with 1 million or more. That's who YouTube wants you watching. Now, here comes the conspiratorial part. YouTube has a very high cost on its end because from a managing the platform and managing their cost, what YouTube is kind of the worst of both worlds because it has to have high storage and high bandwidth to be able to store all the video that is available on the site and to be able to send it out decently. And those are both very, very expensive to do at high levels and the kind of levels that YouTube would have to maintain them at. So from their perspective, in terms of trying to not have that cost continue to balloon, if they can narrow down their audience's focus onto fewer people, that's better for their storage, definitely, and bandwidth probably. And so there's a phrase that I actually heard earlier this week, I think from James Stephanie Sterling, is this idea that YouTube might be trying to get small creators to jump before they're pushed. Basically, kind of disincentivizing them in the algorithm so much that they leave on their own so that they don't have to answer questions about why did you boot everybody under 100,000 subscribers, which is, to be clear, that's not something I actually think they're trying to do. But I do think that on paper, that is the world that they would like, to not have to store video for tiny ass channels anymore. And I think part of how they have retooled stuff, it would not surprise me at all if part of the design is to make smaller size channels give up and leave. And that is a reason to treat them differently than the megastars, because they want to keep the megastars not only happy but growing. Mid-size, small size, not only do they not care, they probably don't want at least as many of us as there are.
I guess that makes sense. Are they actually running out of like space on their servers and stuff?
Like in a raw number sense, I have no idea. Because if they are, they'll never tell us.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So, like, I don't think this is a matter of they're literally running out of space. You can always build another server, but it's expensive. That's the thing. That's an ongoing cost to maintain the servers they have and to get more whenever they do start running low on space.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess, do you think this is like a problem, like the communication part of it, with a lot of media sites in general nowadays?
It varies, but various forms of this exist in most spaces where it is not uncommon for sites to simply do a thing and then the entire user base, it goes, wait, what? You know, it happened to Tumblr. It happened to Pornhub. It's happened in a number of places on varying scales. Here's a case study I can give you for a company that did do that, but then seemed to actually learn from it. So I'm going to take a second to talk about Patreon. Not just because I have a Patreon, Council of Geeks on Patreon, please support me. But even beyond that, so I got to be careful how I word this. I'm not under NDA or anything, but like I'm not trying to piss anybody off. But basically, so a week or so ago at time of recording, Patreon put out a survey of its creators, and it was a very generalized survey, basically finding out what its primary focus is what kind of content does your Patreon support? Because, you know, there's all kinds of people on there. Some people are creating art. Some people are doing podcasts. Some people make video games. Some people are, creating graphic novels, whatever. There's a wide variety of stuff. But of course, my main focus is video on Council of Geeks. So I marked myself as primarily a video Patreon. And a little bit after that, they reached out to me because they are considering some additional features on Patreon that they wanted the opinions of their primarily video-based creators. And I ended up having what I was told ahead of time probably be about a half-hour one-on-one talk with someone from Patreon. It ended up being an hour because I talk a lot, as people already know. But basically, talking about a feature they are considering whether or not they did it, what would my feelings about it be? If these are the bullet points, which of these is the most appealing to me and why? Of the various wordings of these, what one is more appealing? So, like, the specific of what they're planning to do, they obviously have already planned. However, they are reaching out to the people who would be most impacted or most likely to make use of this feature if and when it rolls out, and getting their direct opinion before they actually do the thing. And this is important because Patreon screwed that up a couple years back. I forget the exact details of precisely what it was they did in terms of like the actual nuts and bolts of what it was they did that caused this, but basically Patreon announced, and not in a, hey, we're thinking about this. They said like, we are changing the way we're collecting funds. And I think this might not be exactly what it was, but like just go with it. I think it was something like the tax involved. They were going to start having that be on the patron supporters, as opposed to something that is taken out of the cut of the actual creators on Patreon. And they just decided they were going to do that. And that was actually a really huge problem. And if they had asked any of their creators, they would have realized that, because any of us could have told them, hey, if you do this, suddenly what is being taken out of people's accounts to support us jumps up by whatever the tax percentage is, say 15%. And now, depending on how things are for them, that may be more than they're willing to support us with, more than they can afford to support us with. They're going to have to drop down to a lower tier of support. Some of them might drop off at all. And it was a mess, and a whole bunch of people announced plans to look for an alternate platform to Patreon. And to their credit, they realized, oh crap, we screwed up. They rolled that back. They had announced it. They hadn't actually implemented it yet. But they rolled that back, didn't do it. And now, just based off the experience I had with Patreon with this new feature that they're working on, they're very clearly much more cautious and aware about finding a way for creators to get their input in, even though, like I said, the decision of what it is they're building and whether or not to do it does not rest with us at all. But they are at least touching base to gauge the temperature of the room, which is something most of these platforms don't do, and YouTube especially doesn't do. Which, again, it's so big it doesn't have to. Part of the reason Patreon had to get better is because they had that panic moment of, oh crap, people are going to go somewhere else. Because there are alternate platforms. I mean, just to name one, I know it's primarily known for adult content at this point, but OnlyFans functions basically the same as Patreon. So anyone who just wanted to move all their stuff and their followers and their money over there could have done so very easily. And I think because Patreon, while I think the best known sort of ongoing crowdsourcing sort of thing, it is not the monolith that YouTube is. And as a result, does have to actually be careful, because they can't just shrug and go, well, this is it, deal with it.
Yeah, I remember that whole thing with Patreon. A lot of creators were mad about that. I think partially because basically it's like a whole issue with like communication with their customers. I think I get what Patreon was doing, where they were coming from, like trying to make things easier for the creator to be able to, like, I guess, have like a better rounder number for themselves, but at the same time you're like screwing over their customers, you know? And
like on paper it could make, I could see how they could arrive at that conclusion.
Yeah.
But it also is very clear, especially in hindsight, that they didn't actually talk to any or that many creators about it, because if they had, people would have told them exactly what was going to happen.
Which is kind of the same thing that's happening with Twitch right now, because like they're going ahead and announced the 50-50 split that they have with creators now, changed from, like, I think it's the top creators and streamers who had like a 70-30 and then suddenly, oh, we're gonna knock that down to 50-50 because we think we deserve a little more than you guys, or a little more than that. But yeah, it
Well, unfortunately, Twitch has similarly kind of reached that monolith status.
yeah.
You know, there was a couple years ago, there was a competitor. There was Mixer, which I never used, and from what I heard, wasn't great. But just by existing, it helped because theoretically people could go somewhere else. Now, I mean, where the hell else do you go? I mean, you can stream video games on YouTube, but do you think that's going to be any freaking better?
I mean, I think um I think the way YouTube does it compared to Twitch, I think it's a little better. Not good for like discovery because um I don't know what YouTube does to discover streams because like they don't have a page or anything. You just go to someone's like literal YouTube page and see if they're streaming, and if not, then you're out of luck. But with YouTube, like or I guess with Twitch, they have like an actual way to discover streaming on there, but like all these streamers want to go somewhere, you know? Like
Yeah.
they're being told to go to YouTube. It or they want to go to YouTube and they're being told, "Hey, you should like I guess make a library of videos to attract everybody and like get your YouTube channel known in that way."
Yeah,
and then you can
you can't build an audience as a streamer. You can
right.
build an audience and then stream. So yeah, the way it works is completely different. Honestly, here's what's really stupid about Twitch. It's just the manner in which they report things back. See, like, so I'm gonna put on an evil corporate hat for a hot second. The fact that creators even know what the split is actually a case of stupidity or arrogance on the part of Twitch. Because the instant that the creators know what the split is, they know how much they're getting screwed. And if you change it, like they did, they know how much additional money you're screwing them out of. YouTube, while it doesn't pay great, when they tell you what you're going to be earning, that is what you are earning. And everything that is set up there, whether it's the YouTube memberships or what have you, up front, they just tell you what you get. Like the only thing where you don't get as much as it looks like you did is on things like the super chats. So again, kind of the streaming. But like when you look at your dashboard and you just look at your summary and it's telling you this is what you've made, or you just run the math yourself on, you know, your memberships and how many people are at what levels, you're going to get what it says. Whereas on Twitch, because everybody knows what the cost of a subscription is, and everyone knows theoretically what 100 bits is worth, they can run the math on their own and figure out, hey, you're keeping 50% of this. You actually can't figure out what percentage of what percentage of revenue YouTube is keeping. And they don't make that public. And it kind of boggles my mind that Twitch has not bothered to try and obfuscate that.
I think a few sites actually do that. I'm pretty sure TikTok has like there were like some news articles on how TikTok wasn't as good as YouTube with their revenue split.
Well, TikTok, I don't know in terms of the split, but like, so
I think there was like a pool of money that they had.
Yeah,
for...
there is or was a pool. Like, okay, let me put it this way: I have videos on TikTok that have 10 times the number of views of anything I've ever made on YouTube. I make pennies. I make literal pennies
Yeah.
on TikTok. monetization on TikTok, regardless of what the split is, it's a joke. It is a sick joke how pitiful it actually is. Regardless of what the split is. But like, yeah, if somebody who wants to run a whole bunch of analytics, they could probably calculate what the split is. But Twitch has always been pretty upfront with it, which just has always struck me as very brazen.
Mm-hmm. So I guess one of my last questions, do you think you know or could, I guess, surmise why sites like YouTube and Twitch don't explicitly make clear the decisions that they make?
Because they don't have to. It's as simple. There's literally no benefit for them to do so. Because yes, creators get upset. But again, in the case of both of those platforms, where are they going to go? They'll bitch and they'll moan and they'll try and drum up support, and it will all be forgotten and moved on from in a week because the creators still have to keep using the same platform, and their supporters will continue to watch them on that platform, but they're not going to abandon the creator to try and hurt the platform. That just hurts the creator. So everything stays the same. All these places have to do is keep their heads down while everybody's bitching about it, and then it's just the new normal after a few weeks, a month.
Is there any way to fix that?
No. You have to fix capitalism to fix that.
Jesus Christ.
No, I'm sorry. I don't.
Mean to... It's an uphill battle. Like,
yeah,
we got to change the whole system.
I don't mean to be a downer, but we have a lot of monopoly and de facto monopoly problems globally, and in this country specifically. We've got a lot. But in the tech sector, especially, it is absurd the level of monopoly that exists. Because, like I said, this is honestly, so tiny tangent. This is part of the problem with having a legislative body whose average age is retirement.
Yeah,
because they don't understand. They look at the fact that TikTok is a video platform. YouTube is a video platform. Twitch is a live video platform. And they think, oh, these can't be monopolies. They're all doing the same thing. They compete with each other. And the answer to that is sort of, but not really. Because TikTok basically is a monopoly on short form video, a little bit competing with Instagram, who's trying to pivot from photo to video. And that's not going to end well for them.
Yeah.
YouTube is the de facto monopoly for long form high production video, and Twitch is the de facto monopoly for streaming, especially video game streaming. So yes, they're all technically video platforms, but within a smaller niche, they are absolutely monolithic, and they are effectively monopolies, even if not technically monopolies. And the only way to fix this is to go back in time and stop this from happening in the first place. Because until we get to a point where we have anybody in government who is prepared to actually break these frigging places up, then yeah, they don't have to get better. Patreon got better because they had to. They are not monolithic. YouTube doesn't have to get better. Twitch doesn't have to get better. TikTok might have had to get better, except they're backed by a foreign government, so they don't have to worry about it either. The reason these places are bad and will never get better under the current system is because they have absolutely no incentive to, other than to stop people bitching at them. But why would they do that when they make all this money? They'll stick plugs in their ears and cash their checks.
I think this is probably why I want like I don't know how to put it, but like I think I do want these big companies to be broken up at some point, because like they're so big that like we don't have any competition. Like even the plan that capitalism is supposed to be, like there's no competition for it. So like you can't really have a choice in that, you know?
Yeah. See, like First of all, the whole thing of like, well, the free market allows for competition. That's not true. The free market just allows the big fish to get bigger and eat everything else.
Mhm.
But the way that you ensure that there is competition is by actually regulating the market, which we have not had a government with much teeth to do that in decades. Honestly, it's basically been a crap hole since Reagan. It's only gotten marginally better for short bursts since then. And the thing is, like, you could not, at this point, you could not realistically break up YouTube as an entity. It only does one thing. What you could do is divorce YouTube from Google. Because part of the reason YouTube is able to behave the way it is because it's backed by Google. If they didn't have Google behind them, then even as a monopoly, they would have to be more careful because they can't just go to Daddy Google to bail them out if they do something dumb and start losing money.
Right.
So even just detaching YouTube from Google would be a start. Detaching Twitch from Amazon would be a start. It wouldn't immediately fix everything, but it would at least put things in a situation where these companies don't have, a trampoline made of money that is their parent company.
So I guess to end on like a more hopeful note, there are people in government like I want to say Bernie Sanders and what's her name? Like there's a lot of progressives in Congress who want to like keep going on like breaking up monopolies and stuff. Um I want to say Amy, no, not Amy. What is her name? Katie Porter. She's really good on that kind of stuff, like just taking all these bigger companies and CEOs to task on this kind of stuff. And
I mean, they try, certainly.
yeah,
It can be very satisfying to see these people drag these heads of companies in before Congress and eviscerate them on C-SPAN. But until we get more of those people in and they have enough support to actually do something, all we get is the catharsis of these people looking like fools. At the end of the day, they still are cashing the same checks.
yeah.
So I'm not going to say there's no way to resolve this. There is. Vote left. Like the right, despite the fact that the right does not like big tech, they do like big business. And they will default to treating big tech like most big business, which is let them do whatever the hell they want. Even though Republicans have a fair amount of issues with a fair number of tech companies for various reasons I don't even feel like getting into, they will not be allies in addressing that ever.
Mm.
So, like so many things, if you want to combat the tech monopolies, if you want to combat stagnant wages, if you want to combat billionaires taking in 300 times the average employee's take-home salary, if you want to combat fascism, vote as far left as you can. That's kind of all I've got, because whatever you think about the right, they have no vested interest in preventing, stopping, or undoing anything that we have talked about.
And one more thing before we go. Today I just heard about Biden making moves to classify employees or classify gig workers as employees, which is huge because
Yes, it is.
there's been like so much happening around that. Yeah, go ahead and
the gig economy is one of the greatest scams of the last 50 years. It was sold as a solution and it was poison. And yeah, that would be really nice if we could freaking stop letting everything from Uber to DoorDash to the freaking WWE, if we could stop them from being able to claim people are independent contractors when they're clearly not.
Yeah, and the moves that he's been making like this for workers has been really giving me hope that we're gonna get a lot more things done like in the next few years if like everything goes right, I guess. Um,
Well, I was gonna say I wish they got on it faster because that's great that it's being worked towards. I don't like the idea that whether or not anything happens is going to be dependent on the midterms.
yeah, they're extremely slow at doing anything.
Yes.
Um,
that's
but
that's unfortunately part of the problem, and that's part of why some people, just out of sheer frustration, end up voting either more centrist or going to the right because at least the right does stuff.
yeah, at this point, I don't think that's the right call because
Oh, I don't either.
yeah,
Like I can keep coming back. This is an ageless joke. I quoted this, I think, to Jessie Gender on the podcast that I do with her, like a couple weeks back. But this is a Simpsons joke from the '90s, where like the camera cuts the Democratic National Convention and then the Republican National Convention, and in the Democratic National Convention, there's a big banner, and it says, "We don't know what we're doing." And then at the Republican National Convention, it says, "We're just evil." And it's still freaking relevant. One
yeah,
side gets nothing done and the other side gets stuff done, but it's nothing good.
yeah, yeah, it's absolutely right. Well,
I am going to apologize right now for not bringing more optimism, but like,
that's
you
okay.
know, I I'm 40 and I'm not going to blow smoke up anybody's ass at this point.
Mhm.
I don't I don't care anymore. I'm 40 and self-employed. I have very little reason to sugarcoat anything.
That's completely fair. At a certain point, you just start become jaded about that, you know?
Yeah. And look, I'm not actually encouraging anyone to be as jaded as me. If you can hold on to more hope, if you can see ways that this can get better that I'm not seeing, you know what? Not only am I happy for you, I am jealous of you. And I would beg you to not lose that because it's not fun. I don't actually enjoy being as cynical as I am, but it happens.
Yeah, like one of the things that I do want about this show is that like I want to like come up with solutions and like brainstorm and stuff like that to like give people a little bit of hope. Um like I understand that you're jaded and stuff and like I get it, you know? Like I just I feel like I'm doing something with that, you know? Like
No,
give
and
someone
and
something.
you know what? That is always worth doing. As I am a very cynical person at this point in my life, and I'll probably never be asked back on this show for that reason. But
I wouldn't say that.
but I am not too cynical for hope. I don't have a clear view of it a lot of the time, but that doesn't mean that I'm resistant to it. That doesn't mean that if somebody offers up a genuine piece of hope that I'm ever going to smack it away. I'm not so cynical that I want to douse somebody else's light. I don't want to do that. But when it comes to platforms like YouTube, kind of all you can do is what we have been doing, which is to make as much noise as we can whenever they screw up so that they don't think that we don't care and that we've just swallowed it. Just don't expect actual reactions from that. Because again, they don't have to.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make making your voice heard and voicing your displeasure and calling out the BS, that doesn't make that without value. It's it's a bit like why it was important to I'm just leaning into the politics at this point. That's why it was important to impeach Trump after January 6th, even though he was already on his way out and there was virtually no way the impeachment was actually going to be carried out.
Mhm.
It was still important to do that because the message had to be sent. This is not okay. and we are going to at least try to hold you to account. We're not going to roll over and just act like this isn't a problem. And that has value. I wish it did more than it does, but that on its own does still have value. That is not nothing, making it known that we haven't given up and just rolled over.
Mm-hmm. Well, on that note, I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me about this stuff. It was a great conversation, I think. Go ahead and shout out your stuff. If there's like a video you want people to watch, go ahead and say that.
Oh, well, let's see. Well, I already plugged the Patreon. Okay, I'll tell you a video that I would really love more people to see, because I worked on it for 6 months and it did not do well. So if you go to the Vera Wilde channel, Wilde spelled W-Y-L-D-E, I have a video on there that is, hold on, I can get to the exact title, but it's one where I interviewed a bunch of creators who were mainstream creators who found success on mainstream platforms, and after already having built an audience, then opened up adult content OnlyFans accounts. The name of the video is Content Creation to Spicy Accounting, the journey from mainstream to OnlyFans. As I said, I spoke with a bunch of people, including myself. Yes, I did interview myself, which also means you can find me on OnlyFans, Vera Wilde, W-I-L-D-E. But that video, it is an hour and 20 minutes. It's effectively a documentary on the experiences of people trying this out, and I put together a wonderful group of people, very varied in terms of body type, gender identity, type of content, what their experience was like. I am incredibly proud of that video, and it's very underviewed. So that's on the Vera Wilde channel. If you want the more geeky stuff, that you can look for Council of Geeks. There's all kinds of things on there. At the time that we're talking, I just barely put out a video talking about why the confirmation that Velma Dinkley from Scooby-Doo is gay, why that matters. So you can find stuff on there. And if you just look for Vera Wilde or Council of Geeks on all sorts of places, you'll find stuff. Like you'll find Vera Wilde on TikTok, you'll find Council of Geeks on Twitch, you'll find both on Twitter. Generally, the geeky stuff is under Council of Geeks, and under Vera Wilde, you'll find stuff more about my experiences as a gender fluid person, but also, you know, the spicier content.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that video out. I didn't know that was out. I'm gonna go check it out.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. It's like, I knew it was going to get fewer videos, partly because I put it on the Vera Wilde channel, which is smaller than the Council of Geeks channel, but given what the topic was, that just seemed like a better fit.
Yeah.
But I am trying to figure out how to get more eyes on it, because I spent 6 months editing that thing.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm definitely checking that video out, and you have a great rest of your night.
You too.